I'm pretty sure if you are married to Roger Rabbit, you get to be an honorary rabbit.
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. Follow Daniel at dstarsick on Twitter. Follow Ryan at Darth Damio on the Bluebird app. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that the Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to episode 58 of the Horror of Babylon, where we are discussing Dracula's Guest by Bram Stoker. I am Ryan, and with me as always is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
And we want to thank our patrons. This show is brought to you by Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons.
And Logan, the Full Metal Patron.
So we are starting a new story, so of course we're going to jump into our history with it. For me, I read Dracula itself for the first time last year, and when I finished it, I loved it so much. I immediately Googled, what other Dracula media did Bram Stoker write? And of course, that led me to Powers of Darkness and Dracula's Guest. As soon as we decided to cover Dracula, I was like, well, we got to do a short episode on Dracula's Guest. So I reread it twice in preparation for this.
I re-listened to it this time. My history is I read Dracula, and I have several copies of Dracula, so I went through some of my other copies, and one of them has Dracula's Guest at the beginning of it. Maybe
as it was intended to be.
Yeah. And so that's when I first read it. I didn't read it the first time I read Dracula, but I went through and saw it because I have so many special editions, or I have one that talks about all the film history after the actual book.
That's cool.
It has some small scholarly journals in it.
For our coverage of it, I read it pre-Dracula, so I read Dracula's Guest, then Dracula, then Powers of Darkness.
Yeah.
And then I reread it today to freshen up for this recording. And it was enjoyable. It was a nice little trilogy.
Yeah.
Trilogy of bitey, howly, flappy things.
Of little bites.
The vampires are pure myth, superstition. I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
Jumping into background, Dracula's Guest is a short story by Bram Stoker, of course the author of Dracula. It was first published in the short story collection Dracula's Guest and Other Weird Stories in 1914. Did you know that Bram Stoker died on April 20th, 1912?
I did not.
He did. He died before this was published.
Got a whole new reason to celebrate.
His widow, Florence Balcom, published this story post-mortem. And not a complete list, but just a few of the other short stories that are included in this collection. The Burial of the Rats, A Dream of Red Hands, and A Gypsy Prophecy, which I'm pretty sure is thinner, and I think Stephen King stole that.
Yeah, he stole that like The Simpsons steals our jokes.
Exactly. Generally, it's thought that this short story was the first portion of the Dracula novel, which was removed during revisions. And I actually have some scholarly work here to quote. So Leslie L. Klinger had access to the original Dracula manuscript while he was researching his 2008 book, The New Annotated Dracula, and he saw evidence of Dracula's Guest having been deleted from the manuscript. such as a deleted sentence where Harker comments that his throat is still sore from the licking of the gray wolf's file-like tongue. Also, the first and second chapters of the finished novel were labeled in the manuscript as 2 and 3 instead of 1 and 2.
Okay.
This story actually has been adapted. A man named David Selznick bought the film rights to Dracula's Guest and then resold them to Universal, and Universal used them ostensibly for Dracula's Daughter. I haven't seen Dracula's Daughter, but apparently it really has nothing to do with Dracula's Guest.
Not at all, because I have seen Dracula's Daughter. Universal pulled a Universal.
And it does have 3 comic book adaptations from Eternity Comics, Dynamite, and Robot Comics. And it has an Indian radio adaptation. It's a radio station in the eastern part of India, and they started a Dracula series adapting Bram Stoker's Dracula, and the first episode they did was a radio drama of Dracula's Guest.
Whoa!
I know, I was thinking about Whoa the whole time. Should we get a copy of this and listen to it in Hindi? And then do an episode of it?
Why not? Why not?
Well, because there's no visual component to it. We'd just be listening to people speak in Hindi.
We could try to interpret it for a pre-show.
Or maybe we should just learn Hindi.
Yeah, we'll learn Hindi.
And then we can watch all of Woe and do a full... we could do episode-by-episode coverage of Woe.
I still want to become just rich enough to where I can buy the rights to Woe and get like a dub on there and a Blu-ray box set.
If you don't know what we're talking about, Woe is the Indian adaptation of Stephen King's It. It's a 50-episode television series. We did an episode reviewing the first 5 episodes, which we watched with no dub and no subs. So
it turned into us playing Legacy a lot.
Yeah, lots of magic.
And that's that. Another story in the classic, infallible 3-act structure. Good enough for Aristotle, good enough for The Simpsons.
Mr. Sislak, I have a feeling there's going to be one more act to this story.
Well, I'm not hanging around for that. 4 acts.
So jumping into structure and themes, how does this story fit into Dracula, assuming you think it does at all?
I think it would fit just fine into a prequel. Or not a prequel, but like a prologue or a chapter 1. Mm-hmm. You can kind of see why it's removed. I think the first 2 chapters of Dracula kind of build like this air of mystery. And if this was the first chapter, you already see not a whole lot of supernatural stuff, but
some amount.
Yeah. So I can understand why it might be removed, but I could see it being fit just back in there. I think it might mess with the pacing a little bit.
I wouldn't recommend it for somebody who's reading Dracula for the first time.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see it in like a larger, like, I would be excited for a hardcover, like maybe annotated edition of Dracula that includes Dracula's Guest as a prologue.
He puts in those like references.
Or what if it's like one large hardcover volume that has Dracula's Guest, Dracula, and then Powers of Darkness?
That'd be great.
Yeah, and then
I've been considering buying a physical copy of Powers of Darkness.
I would like to have a physical copy of Powers of Darkness so I could go through the prologue and the introduction with a highlighter and highlight like all the relevant stuff that I want for like notes.
Yeah.
Because
I'd put little post-it notes in it too, as like little bookmarks.
There's so much information in the prologue of Powers of Darkness that it's hard to parse it all down to just the relevant stuff. But we'll talk about that
when we get to that episode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A big theme in this story is Walpurgis Night, which is the eve of the Christian feast day of Saint Walpurga. I don't think I'm saying that right.
Walpurga.
Walpurga. Okay, so this is celebrated on the night of April 30th, and then the day itself is May 1st. It's a feast that commemorates the canonization of Saint Walpurga. Saint Walpurga was hailed by the Christians of Germany for battling pests, rabies, the whooping cough, as well as witchcraft. Christians prayed to God through the intercession of Saint Walpurga in order to protect themselves from witchcraft. And then in honor of her, they would light bonfires that would ward off witches. Walpurgis Night, the eve of her holiday, is when this story takes place, which sets the spooky tone because it's the eve of the canonization of this woman who was known for battling witchcraft and also pests, like rats, things that are associated with witches and vampires and such.
Especially Dracula. Like, there's a lot of that in the actual book.
Yeah, you actually see, like, more... I don't know about more, but there's a lot more wolves and rats than maybe you expected compared to bats.
Yeah.
Like, bats are, like, the main thing he's associated with in popular culture today, and wolves to a lesser extent, but there's a lot about just, like, rats and other pests.
Yeah.
Let's say you had read this, and you've never read Dracula, and you never heard of Dracula. Would you consider this a vampire story?
I could see somebody maybe getting onto that with, like, when he's opening the tomb and sees the woman, and then there's the wolf. I probably, like, on a blind reading, would probably more mistake it for either, like, a ghost or a werewolf story.
Do you think that this story would have any value if it weren't for its relationship to the novel Dracula?
I think it's well written. I do think that its relationship to Dracula is where it gets its main value.
Because I think the main interest is in discussing its link to Dracula, and when we get to characters, we'll talk about the lady in the tomb and the wolf and who they actually are. Are they related to Dracula? Are they not?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's still, without Dracula, I think it's still a spooky little story.
I'd say that it would fit just fine into any, like, compilation of horror stories.
Yeah, any, like, gothic, like, 19th century
collections and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Such as Dracula's Guest and Other Weird Stories, published in 1914.
Exactly.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Characters, we have the unnamed guest. Is this Jonathan Harker?
I think the manuscript strongly suggests that. I had an alternative reading, which was, I was thinking of him as Renfield, and this is what drove him mad.
So, was Renfield associated with the Count before he became hospitalized?
Yeah, that's how I read it.
Okay.
I do think that, like, from a literary perspective, it's impossible to deny it's Jonathan. But,
yeah, okay.
But, like, when I'm reading it and I go, well, I guess since they're not going to name you, I'm just going to picture this and see how that fits. And it didn't exactly not fit.
Maybe that'll be in the Nicolas Cage movie. Maybe we'll...
Yeah.
No, probably not.
We'll see, right?
The only, like, real evidence that I could point to the contrary, which was probably just something that wasn't of concern because it was taken out during revisions, is that the main character of this story does not speak German, where I believe in the novel Jonathan Harker isn't fluent but can speak some amount of German. Like, if I remember correctly...
The woman who gives him the crucifix, she was speaking German.
Right, because in the village, he was trying to speak to people in German rather than their native tongue, be it Romanian or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But...
I'm just sitting around going... How many revisions and, like, versions did Bram Stoker write?
Because he worked on it for 7 years.
That's so much work.
It really... And I'm glad Hef isn't here so he can't roll his eyes at me. But it really reminds me of Tolkien. And just, like, how they just are continually dragging up new notes. And, like, oh, here's another revision of the Silmarillion. This is version 35.
It strikes me as... Dracula as a whole, anyway, like a perfectionist work.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying it's perfect, but it was written by a guy who considered himself or acted like a perfectionist. He was like, oh, now this idea kind of fits, but that means I have to take these 2 chapters out, and now I need something to replace them.
Yeah. And
I think there's a lot of evidence for that over the years.
God, and I want to take what you said, Ed, and just jump into a discussion of Powers of Darkness, but we're not. We're not
next
there.
time.
We're not there. Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Next time on the Dracula podcast.
Bram Stoker had a huge hand in writing Powers of Darkness. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. That guy was a pirate. He was a fucking pirate.
I can't.
Shut your mouth.
I can't wait.
Okay. The lady in the tomb. What's her deal?
I'm pretty sure she's just a vampire. It was like a glimpse of one.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that other sorts of, like, fiends don't exist in Dracula's universe.
Yeah.
But they really don't lean into any of them. Like, I think they bring up werewolves in Dracula.
Yeah.
But they don't really, like, they don't show you a werewolf. They show you that Dracula can control wolves, So it's very a very vampire-centric universe.
Taking that into talking about the wolf, is the lady in the tomb the wolf? Or is the wolf Dracula? Or is the wolf just a wolf? Is it an actual vampire?
I would say it was either a familiar or it was the woman in the tomb. I don't think it's Dracula because of Dracula's letter to his guest, because he seemed concerned with getting his guest to his house.
Yeah.
But he'd probably be familiar of, oh, there's one of those women that I sired, like acting a fool.
That was what I thought, until I had a new thought on my most recent read today.
Okay.
There's a line that one of the militiamen says when they find Harker, that we never would have found him if it wasn't for the baying of the wolf, which made me think, was the wolf actually trying to help them find Harker?
Oh, so he didn't, like, freeze to death in the storm?
Yeah.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
It could have been Dracula.
It could have been Dracula, just making sure they got there.
Or a minion of Dracula. Or it could have been
a wolf that he controlled to put there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it could have been the lady in the tomb, doing a good deed.
Yeah.
Or maybe she was about to fucking rip his throat out and they just came at the right second.
Likes to play with her food.
Yeah, she's... Oh, shit, I should have been quiet.
Yeah.
I should have been fucking quiet. I knew it. I knew it.
Every time.
I'll kill you all! I'll drive you crazy, and I'll kill you all! I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
It's a scary shit. Is this story scary?
It didn't scare me, but I could see, if I opened a tomb and just saw a woman in there even for a split second, I'd probably shit my pants.
To the audience at the time, it was probably very scary.
Yeah.
And putting myself in the situation of the character, that, and more so for me, waking up with something on top of me licking my neck.
Yeah, just like even just a big dog would freak me out.
And it reminded me of Victor waking up and the monster being over top of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's scary, but did, reading the story itself really, scare me? No.
No.
But I can definitely see at the time it being very scary. And maybe if I wasn't so desensitized, it would be more scary.
I mean, we also do read, a lot of horror.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, so much so that we're having to turn to horror porn to get our flippance off and...
Yeah.
Kiss me, fat boy!
Kiss me, fat boy. What fur baby would tempt you to the fur side? Is Harker a furry now, or is he just into bestiality?
What fur baby would tempt me to the fur side?
The fur side, yeah.
I literally have, a file on my phone called Fuckable Rabbits.
I mean, Fran.
Yeah, she's number one.
Yeah.
Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah, not a rabbit, but... She's an honorary rabbit. Honorary. I'm pretty sure if you are married to Roger Rabbit, you get to be an honorary rabbit.
Yeah, Judy Hopps.
Judy, no.
Have you read the abortion comic with Judy Hopps?
No, and I won't.
Oh my god, we should review that.
No. Something worse.
I will. It's so well drawn.
Gross.
Oh my god, are you Stephen King? No, I'm Dean Koontz. Oh.
All right, my Koontz is you talking about the abortion. No, okay. My king is Jonathan Harker waking up with a fucking wolf on his chest.
Yeah, that's also my king.
And my Koontz, I want to say my Koontz is not having a definitive answer as to the mysteries, but that's also kind of the best part of it.
Yeah, that's a strong part. I guess I'll make my Koontz the wagon driver.
Okay, why is the wagon driver your Koontz?
Because he's the least interesting character. He's trying to stop the guest from going off and getting into all sorts of shenanigans. I'm like, you're slowing down the story, sir.
I love... Sure, he's my Koontz too. Fuck that guy. He's the new Kevin Smith. Fuck him. I love in the letter at the end where Dracula's like, he's English, which means he's adventurous.
Yeah.
You gotta keep an eye on those English
people. Sometimes they'll just go into a country and never leave.
That's That's very true. That's very true. All right, now I get to do something that we don't do very often, which is pull up our short story rankings.
Yeah, we don't do that very often.
No, we don't. And so much so that we've talked about just folding them in with the novels and novellas. I'll go ahead and go over them. My list is from the bottom. All That You Love Will Be Carried Away by Stephen King. Night Surf by Stephen King. The Phantom Rickshaw by Rudyard Kipling. The Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft and The Mark of the Beast by Rudyard Kipling. And then yours from the bottom is All That You Love Will Be Carried Away, Night Surf, Phantom Rickshaw. Okay, so ours are the same except for Mark of the Beast and Call of Cthulhu are flipped.
Yeah, they're flipsies.
Yeah, flipsies. Okay, where are you putting Dracula's Guest?
I was going to put it at number 2, but I think I got to put it at number 3 because there's so much in The Mark of the Beast that tickles me pink.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite as good as The Mark of the Beast.
Call of Cthulhu is like the quintessential Lovecraft story.
I'm going to put it at my number 2. I don't actually think that if you're looking at Dracula's Guest and the Call of Cthulhu as like literary pieces, that Dracula's Guest is better. But I think it just has more like things that personally appeal
to you. Yeah, that's respectable.
I prefer vampires and werewolves over eldritch horror. Then that's just just me.
And there's so much in The Mark of the Beast that we got to talk about, like them gagging the dude, and
we were so worried
curses.
that was going to be such a short episode, and then we went like a hard 45 minutes on it.
Yeah,
and Phantom Rickshaw was like a good like 40-ish minutes too. Granted, we only did about 20 on this one, but I mean, it's so short.
I also think that we've learned to be a little bit more concise as we've gone.
Yes, that is
even with our jokes and stuff.
That is very true, which is why I also decided that we were going to do some trivia. Although I forgot, I have Zombie Day.
Okay.
Zombie Day, so where we talk about Easter eggs. So this shows a little bit of Carmilla influence. Do you remember in Carmilla where I don't even remember the main character's name?
Me either.
I want to say Laura or something like that, where she wakes up and Carmilla's in the form of a giant cat on her chest licking her neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at a different time when she wakes up, it's Carmilla there with just blood from here down.
Yeah, exactly. So that reminded me.
I think that was my king when we talked about Carmilla.
I believe it was. I don't remember what my king about Carmilla was.
Ryan's going to embarrass me here because I suck at trivia, so this will be fun.
Well, I hope you studied.
Yeah.
Because this is Horror of Babylon trivia, so it's trivia about our show.
Oh, wow.
Wait, I told you to listen to some of our backlog and study up.
I listen to every episode we do, so...
10 questions.
Ryan shall expose my goldfish brain.
I feel like I started with easy ones, and I tried to make them progressively harder.
Okay.
We'll see how well I succeed. Which of the following games, and I made these multiple choice. I almost didn't. I almost didn't, but I just said, which of the following games has Hef not played for our channel? Mad Father, Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs, Resident Evil 2, Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion.
Resident Evil 2. You streamed that as part of our 13 Nights of Halloween, which drove you bonkers.
I did. It definitely drove me bonkers, though. I will tell you, I liked it more than Silent Hill 2. Like, I might actually pick up Resident Evil 2 and play it again at some point.
Until the 8-foot-tall man chases you around for the remainder of the game.
Then I'll be done. Then I'll be done forever.
I'll do that part for you.
Which show... So you have 1 point.
All right.
And then if you get 10 points, you get to decide the next 3 pre-shows, which is actually just me making you do work.
I mean, that sounds fun to me. I'll do something ridiculous.
If you get more than 5 points, you can decide the next 1 pre-show.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right. Which show segment features a clip from Bela Lugosi's Dracula? Is it scary shit? Is it background, characters, or structure and themes?
Can you repeat those, please?
Scary shit, background, characters, or structure and themes.
Is it background?
It is background.
Okay, I thought so.
It's a Van Helsing.
Van Helsing.
Yeah.
I may be able to bring you too. I can't do that accent.
No, that's hard.
Yeah.
So you have 2 points.
Yeah. Because I love that clip. I also love that movie. But,
yeah, same. Which of the following games have we released more than 1 video on? PT, Hog Hunter 2021, Pony Island or Dread Out?
Pony Island.
Pony Island, we released 2.
Yep.
2 videos.
I know, because I watched them and I laughed my ass off.
Who has guested on more episodes? Matt or Carrie?
Carrie, I think. Oh, really? Wow.
Carrie's only on 2.
Wow.
It Part 4 and It Part 5. Matt was on 4. It's Part 1, 2, and 3, and Whoa.
That's right. For some reason, I was thinking Carrie was on 3 and he was on 2. I keep forgetting about Whoa.
All that It stuff just blurred together at one point.
Okay.
Okay, so, I mean, you've only missed 1 so far, so you're
better than I thought.
Yeah, you're 3 and 1. Let me make a note of this, because I'm not... Okay, 3. You have 3 points. Which author have we not covered more than once? Junji Ito, Brian Augustin, Rumiko Takahashi, or Rudyard Kipling?
Was it Rumiko Takahashi?
It was.
Because I was like, I think we only did Mermaid Saga.
We've only done Mermaid Saga.
Okay.
Which she does have some other spooky stuff, so we can cover her again in the future. I would love to.
I would love to. I love her art, and I like the way she writes.
How many Stephen King works have we reviewed? Not including adaptations.
Okay.
3, 4, 5, or 7?
5.
I have to count because I didn't put the... Okay, so it's 4.
Oh, okay.
You said 5. All right, but you're still doing all right. You had 4 points.
Not too bad.
How many episodes has Hef been a guest on? 18, 27, 13, or 9?
18.
18 is right.
Yeah. I was like, 9's too little, and the other one was too much.
So it was 18 or 13.
Yeah.
What was the 5th novel or novella we covered? Firestarter, The Scarlet Plague, The Mist, or It?
The 5th?
The 5th.
I honestly don't remember. Oh, God, that all blurs together.
What was the first?
The Stand.
What was the second?
I do not remember.
It was the whole reason...
Oh, it was Phantoms.
Do you remember the third?
Nope.
Do you remember the fourth?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm just going to have to concede this one. I don't remember.
There's 4 answers you can guess.
What were they again?
Firestarter, The Scarlet Plague, The Mist, or It?
I think we did The Scarlet Plague third. So I'm going to have to say Firestarter.
Firestarter's correct.
Okay.
We didn't intend on doing it then, but we heard about the movie, so we're like, all right.
Oh, that's right.
Jam it in. So The Mist... Scarlet Plague was 3rd. The Mist was 4th.
Because I remember Scarlet Plague because it was like The Stand.
Yeah. And then we did Firestarter 5th and It 6th.
Okay.
And then I think Carmilla was after that. What is the oldest work we have covered? Is it Carmilla, The Scarlet Plague, The Mark of the Beast, or Frankenstein?
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein is correct. 7. So just for people playing at home, Frankenstein is 1818. Next is Carmilla at 1872. The Mark of the Beast is 1891. And The Scarlet Plague is 1912. And then the last question. So you can get to 8 points.
Ooh, 80%. That's a lot of pie.
Which novel have we covered the second most adaptations for? Not the most adaptations.
The second
The
most.
second most.
Okay. The second most adaptations?
Yes. So maybe try and figure out which one is the most, and then go backwards.
Yeah. I'm going to say the second most.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have options. The Mist, It, Firestarter, or Frankenstein?
Frankenstein.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
I'm sorry, that is incorrect. So, tied for first place with 5 adaptations apiece is It and Frankenstein.
Okay.
Did the miniseries Whoa, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and The Simpsons, Not It.
Yeah.
And then for Frankenstein, 1910, 1931, Junji Ito, Mary Shelley, and Victor Frankenstein. So 5 there.
We did a lot of adaptations for Frankenstein.
Yeah, we did. And then The Mist is second place with 4 adaptations. You probably don't remember them all because we jammed them all into one episode.
Yeah.
The film, the TV series, the audio drama.
I forgot the audio drama.
And the text-based video game that we are experts on because we watched somebody play it for 10 minutes on YouTube.
And then decided to stop. Are we going to do the same thing for Uzumaki's video game?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
They have a Japanese only, I think it's a Famicom text-based game.
So we don't even be able to read the text.
Yeah, for Junji Ito's Uzumaki.
Okay, so you got 7 points.
Not too bad.
You got more...
Like 7 more than I thought I'd get.
You got more than 5 points, so you can decide the next pre-show.
I am going to do some research for that.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Be deranged, sure.
I'm going to make it Lord of the Rings related.
Okay. Oh, all right. Cool. Now I'm excited. I'm excited. This is going to be fun. All right. So for further reading, if you like Dracula's Guest, some other short stories or novellas, vampire-related Family of the Vortilac, Carmilla, the Vampire by John William Palladori, and One for the Road by Stephen King, the Salem's Lot sequel, which we will be covering whenever the hell we do Salem's Lot.
Yeah. We were supposed to have covered it, months ago?
We were going to do it after it.
Yeah.
And you see how that turned out.
Oh, well, it was destiny.
It was destiny. All right, upcoming on the Horror of Babylon. Next week, we are covering our first film adaptation of Dracula. We are covering the unauthorized, the uncut, the unedited Nosferatu. And then our first Dracula fan-written spin-off, though it's a legit professional published book, will be on the following episode. And it'll be our next book episode, and the novella A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. And then our next episode will be on Dracula 1931 with Bela Lugosi. The last Sunday in February, we will be reviewing Powers of Darkness by Bram Stoker, which is probably the episode I'm looking forward to most.
Yeah.
And then our final Dracula episode, which, for the time, we will definitely do more in the future. Mm-hmm. But for this coverage, the first Sunday in March, we will be reviewing Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992.
And for those at home, that is my favorite vampire movie.
With Gary Oldman and Winona Ryder and Keanu Reeves. And
which will be your favorite part of the movie.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you to our patrons, Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron. Stay tuned for our socials. Thank you for recording, Daniel. And
it's fantastic.
Stay scary.
Stay scary, everyone.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow Daniel at DStarSick on Twitter. Follow Ryan at Darth Damio on the Bluebird app. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that the Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.